Imagine a demographic that basically grew up with a smartphone permanently attached to their hand.
Oh, yeah.
You'd think they'd, never set foot in a physical retail store if they could help it.
Right. That's the assumption.
But the reality right now is that 18 to 24-year-olds are actively driving the highest mall patronage in the country.
It's wild.
It really is. They are seeking out physical spaces. And because of that, shopping center vacancies have plummeted down to 5.4%.
Which is a 20-year low.
Exactly. So if you've been sitting in boardroom meetings bracing for the so-called retail apocalypse, you can just put the survival gear away. The apocalypse has been officially canceled.
It has. And it really requires a total recalibration of how we forecast consumer behavior. I mean, for the last 20 years, the dominant narrative, the one driving practically all venture capital and retail strategy, was that e-commerce would eventually just swallow physical retail whole.
Right. We treated the physical store as this dying asset.
Exactly. But the data from the Census Bureau is completely rejecting that model now. If you look at the projections for 2025, e-commerce sits at just 16.4% of total U.S. retail sales.
Which honestly puts the entire timeline into perspective.
It really does.
Because that 16.4% is barely a tick above the 16.3% market share e-commerce reached during the second quarter of 2020.
Right in the middle of absolute maximum lockdown conditions.
Yeah, we saw that massive spike during the pandemic, and, we projected it out as this permanent exponential curve.
But it wasn't a curve at all. We simply hit a ceiling.
We did. So for today's deep dive, we're tearing down the myth of the dead physical store. We're looking at a new Harvard Business Review report that fundamentally redefines retail real estate.
And the underlying catalyst for this shift back to physical space isn't just nostalgia or something. It's cold, hard unit economics.
Oh, definitely.
Shoppers, and more importantly, brands, are being forced back into brick and mortar because the internet has simply become too expensive. It's too inefficient a channel for standalone selling.
Yeah, the pure direct-to-consumer model is facing a systemic crisis right now.
It really is.
Because the math of digital customer acquisition has completely inverted over the last half-decade. If you're looking at your own performance marketing dashboards recently, you've probably felt this squeeze firsthand.
Oh, absolutely. And this shift is largely driven by the privacy updates rolled out by Apple, Meta, and, the other major tech platforms.
Right.
Those changes severely degraded a brand's ability to track users and target them with high-intent ads. Highly specific, algorithmically driven targeting was, it was the entire foundation of the direct-to-consumer playbook.
You could find a customer for literally pennies on the dollar.
Precisely. But without that granular signal, the average cost per click has surged by an estimated 40 to 50% in just 5 years.
It's like Apple's privacy update took the GPS tracker off the customer.
That is exactly what happened.
Brands are still paying a premium to deploy these digital delivery trucks. They're ad campaigns, basically. But now they're driving blindfolded through the neighborhood. They're just throwing packages out the window and hoping they hit the right driveway.
The blindfolded delivery analogy captures the friction perfectly. And even when that ad does hit the right driveway, when a customer actually clicks through and puts a product in their digital cart, the conversion mechanics are still just working against you.
Oh, the drop-off is brutal.
It is. Roughly 77% of digital carts are abandoned before checkout.
Wow.
And if that customer is browsing on a mobile device, which the vast majority are today, that abandonment rate climbs to over 80%.
There's simply too much friction in the mobile checkout flow.
Exactly, from distractions to surprise shipping costs.
But taking a step back here, the entire pitch for pure direct-to-consumer businesses was that they were the ultimate lean model.
Right.
You bypass the wholesale markups, you avoid paying mass commercial retail rent, you manage a centralized inventory.
And you pass those margin savings on to the consumer or keep them as profit.
Exactly. So how did a model fundamentally built on margin efficiency collapse so quickly?
Well, it was only lean when the cost of acquiring a customer on social media was artificially low. When Facebook and Instagram were essentially handing out cheap conversions, you didn't need physical distribution. But now that CAC customer acquisition cost has skyrocketed, the model breaks.
Yeah.
The cautionary tale the industry is watching right now is Allbirds.
Oh man, Allbirds.
Yeah. I mean, they were the absolute darling of the DTC world. They scaled to a $4 billion valuation purely on digital acquisition and a hyper-focused product line.
Okay.
And they recently sold for just $39 million.
Wait, from $4 billion down to $39 million?
Yep. 39.
That is a spectacular destruction of value. It really exposes the fragility of relying entirely on algorithmic distribution.
It does, and it explains the current mass migration we are seeing across the sector right now.
Who else is moving?
Well, former stalwarts of the direct-to-consumer space brands like Warby Parker, Glossier, Casper, Wayfair, they are all aggressively adding physical store distribution.
No, okay.
Yeah, either through their own leased spaces or wholesale partnerships. The realization is that you just cannot scale a brand to sustain profitability solely on digital margins anymore. The physical store is no longer a liability. It's a required lifeline.
But if brands are migrating back to physical spaces out of financial necessity, they can't just plug into the old 1990s operational model.
No, definitely not.
You can't just lease a box, throw up some shelves, staff a cash register, and expect it to magically fix your balance sheet.
Right, because if the fundamental problem is logistics and acquisition, the physical space has to actually solve those specific problems.
The backroom has to become an active high-velocity engine.
Which brings us to the first of 3 major operational shifts reshaping retail right now. And that's the store acting as a highly optimized logistics hub.
Okay, let's unpack that.
So, smart retailers recognized this before the pandemic, but the explosion of curbside pickup and localized delivery really forced the entire industry to adapt. The physical footprint transformed from this static real estate expense into a decentralized fulfillment network.
I think this is where a lot of legacy brands got tripped up. There's this underlying truth in retail operations. Order fulfillment processes are totally invisible and boring until you don't have the right ones.
Oh, absolutely.
And when you don't have them, they bankrupt you.
Look at the strategic misstep Nike made over the last few years.
This is a perfect example from the report.
Yeah, during the pandemic, Nike decided to aggressively sever ties with a massive portion of their wholesale retail partners. They pulled inventory out of multi-brand stores to force their customer base entirely into their own direct-to-consumer e-commerce channels.
Which, on paper, capturing the entire margin sounds like a brilliant move.
Until you actually have to physically move the product.
Right. Shipping a consolidated pallet containing 500 pairs of shoes to a Foot Locker distribution center costs a fraction of picking, packing, and shipping 500 individual shoeboxes to 500 different residential addresses across the country.
Exactly. Nike didn't just lose wholesale partners, they accidentally turned themselves into a low-margin, high-cost delivery company.
They shifted that massive burden of last-mile logistics and decentralized storage directly onto their own P&L.
And because digital returns are significantly higher than in-store returns, they ended up sitting on just a mountain of excess inventory. To clear that inventory out of their centralized warehouses, they had to slash prices.
Which is the exact kind of brand-eroding discounting that their DTC shift was supposed to prevent in the first place.
Exactly. Ultimately, Nike had to reverse the strategy and start rebuilding those wholesale relationships.
It's a perfect example of the flipped supply chain. The internet didn't replace the store is just digesting the internet. Today, I think an estimated 2/3 of all e-commerce orders touch a physical store in some capacity.
Yeah, whether it's ship from store, curbside pickup, or handling a return, the physical location is a critical node in the omnichannel system.
I'm managing those returns locally is where the margin is really saved, isn't it?
Huge savings. When a customer ships a return back to a centralized e-commerce warehouse, the processing cost is so high and the time delay is so long that seasonal items like apparel often get written off entirely.
They lose their life cycle value while they're sitting in transit.
Right. But if that same return goes to a local physical store, an associate can immediately inspect it, verify it's pristine, and place it right back on the sales floor within minutes.
There's a brilliant software-level routing example in the HBR piece regarding dented appliances.
Oh, I love this one.
Yeah, if a $1,000 refrigerator gets a cosmetic dent during delivery, shipping it back to a central hub is a massive loss. But with integrated inventory software, a hard goods retailer can instantly reroute that specific damaged unit to a store location situated in a demographic that indexes high for price-sensitive shoppers.
You turn a total logistical write-off into a localized discount opportunity.
But hold on, let's look at this from the consumer's perspective for a second.
Okay.
Turning a retail store into a decentralized mini warehouse sounds great for a company's profit margins, but it sounds like a terrible experience for the actual shopper. I mean, if I'm walking into a high-end apparel store, I don't want to be dodging stressed-out employees, packing cardboard boxes, and wheeling U-boats of online orders through the aisles.
Yeah, no one wants that.
Doesn't this logistical integration kind of destroy the ambiance that physical retail is supposed to provide?
It is an operational tightrope, for sure. But when the architecture is designed correctly, the logistics remain entirely invisible to the floor shopper. And importantly, it provides a massive benefit to the consumer in the form of sustainability.
Oh, right.
Because e-commerce home delivery is an incredibly resource-heavy process. You've got the packaging waste, the carbon emissions from last-mile delivery trucks, the traffic congestion.
So how are stores fixing that?
Well, the report highlights a fascinating behavioral study on this exact friction. Retailers simply added sustainability labels at the digital checkout screen.
Okay.
They clearly explained the environmental benefit of choosing local pickup over home delivery. And by just presenting that data, in-store pickups more than doubled, and home deliveries dropped by 43%.
Wait, just by adding context to the checkout screen?
Just by adding context. And the critical takeaway for analysts here is that this massive shift in fulfillment behavior caused absolutely zero drop in customer satisfaction scores.
That's incredible.
Consumers still get the product rapidly, but they appreciate the agency of reducing their carbon footprint. The store's infrastructure allows the brand to align operational efficiency with consumer values.
So if the back room is absorbing all that logistical chaos, handling the localized returns, fulfilling the same-day web orders, acting as the sustainability hub, it actually creates a vacuum on the main shop floor.
It does.
The physical space doesn't need to be crammed floor to ceiling with every single SKU and every single color anymore. Retailers are taking that newly freed up square footage and dedicating it entirely to our second major shift.
Which is the store as a high-touch service destination.
Yes.
This is where we are seeing a very clear bifurcation in merchandising strategy based on consideration levels. Smart operators are aggressively pushing their low-consideration, habitual purchases online.
Like paper towels or basic office supplies.
Exactly, or standard athletic socks. You do not need a highly curated, consultative experience for that. You just want frictionless replenishment.
But if I'm a consumer looking at a $3,000 espresso machine or high-end technical outerwear, the internet can't really give me the tactile confidence I need to convert.
Precisely the point. And for those high-consideration items like consumer durables, luxury beauty, complex electronics retailers are doing the exact opposite of the legacy model.
They're opening things up.
Right. Instead of cramming the floor with boxes, they are expanding the physical display space, creating experiential zones, and completely changing the profile of the associates staffing those areas.
You use the digital channel for replenishment, but the physical store is where the brand builds trust.
Yeah, as one footwear executive in the study pointed out, the physical floor is where the customer gets comfortable with the fit, the weight, and the premium materials. It's the initiation point of the relationship.
And this is where the conversation around technology gets really interesting to me. Because it's no longer this binary battle of physical versus digital.
No, they're merging.
Right. The most successful retailers are layering advanced digital tools directly over the physical space to enhance that consultative experience. Take Walmart, for instance.
Oh, their new tools are wild.
Yeah, they are rolling out Gen AI tools where you can be standing in an aisle, point your smartphone at a physical shelf, and the augmented reality interface will instantly filter the visible products based on your specific dietary restrictions or nutritional goals.
That is just brilliant. Or look at how the Brazilian fashion retailer, Farm Rio, is merging the two environments. They develop these highly detailed virtual walkthroughs of their physical flagship stores.
Okay, so how does that work?
So a customer sitting on their couch can navigate the physical layout digitally. They can interact with an AI chatbot styled as a store associate and pull up customized product pages before they ever decide to drive to the location.
Do people actually use that?
The data shows that 20% of their customer base actively uses this feature.
Wow, 20%.
And the conversion impact is massive. When customers engage with that virtual to physical bridge, their overall purchase volume is 3 times higher.
So a 20% adoption rate is driving triple the purchase volume. That is amazing. The space acts more like a high-tech clinic than a traditional shop where you just grab a box off a shelf.
And you know, operating a clinic requires a completely different type of employee. This is where AI integration is fundamentally changing retail labor.
It's not about replacing them.
Exactly. It's not about deploying robots to replace floor workers. It's about arming the human worker with a real-time algorithmic cheat sheet.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Instead of expecting a 22-year-old associate to memorize the technical specs of 500 different appliances, The AI provides deep, contextualized product knowledge instantly.
It elevates them from basic order takers into powerful, knowledgeable curators who can actually guide a high-consideration purchase.
Which perfectly tees up the third and final paradigm shift, because once you step back and realize your physical store is offering these deep, consultative experiences that actually convert at a massive scale, its value on your company spreadsheet changes entirely.
It completely flips.
It stops being just a real estate liability meant to hold inventory, and it becomes the most powerful top-of-funnel marketing channel you possess. Rule number 3 is the store as a 3D billboard.
A localized engine for brand building.
Right.
There is an old, admittedly tired joke among performance marketers. Where's the best place to bury a body? Page 2 of search results.
It's harsh but true.
It underscores a brutal reality for digital-only brands. If you do not have a physical footprint in a major market, and the search algorithms change, which they do constantly, you effectively cease to exist in the minds of consumers.
But a physical flagship solves that visibility problem permanently. It's immune to algorithm changes. You literally drive past it on your commute every single day.
Exactly. And the HBR data specifically notes that when a brand opens a physical store in a new market, they see an immediate, measurable lift to their online e-commerce sales within that exact same zip code.
The mechanism driving that lift is tactile trust, right? We discussed the collapse of pure DTC models earlier, but look at a brand like Sunday Citizen.
Oh, perfect example.
They launched in 2019 as a direct-to-consumer brand, specializing in incredibly soft premium blankets.
Yeah.
But they quickly hit a hard ceiling on digital conversion.
Because you simply cannot communicate the tactile softness of a blanket through the glass of an iPhone screen. A high-resolution image only gets you so far down the funnel.
Right. You need to literally feel the material to justify the premium price point. And beyond just the tactile sensation of the product itself, physical spaces communicate institutional authority.
They really do. They prove to the skeptical consumer that there is real capital, real infrastructure, and real people behind this Instagram ad they keep seeing.
It takes a fleeting digital concept and anchors it in reality. So if opening a brick-and-mortar location organically boosts the digital sales in that region, retailers should fundamentally stop looking at their monthly commercial rent as just a facilities cost.
They need to start amortizing it as customer acquisition marketing spend.
That is exactly the mental pivot required.
Yeah, one footwear marketer highlighted in the research explicitly stated that their retail footprint has become their primary mechanism for creating top-of-funnel awareness.
It is fascinating.
By treating the physical store as an experiential billboard, they were actually able to significantly reduce their overall digital marketing budget. The storefront generates the impressions, and the digital channels harvest the demand.
Okay, so if we connect all these operational changes together, we arrive at the most critical takeaway for anyone analyzing retail markets today.
The metrics have to change.
Right. If the modern physical store is simultaneously operating as a decentralized logistics hub, a high-tech consultancy clinic, and a localized billboard driving web traffic, well, then trying to measure its success using legacy retail metrics is basically financial suicide.
It guarantees a misallocation of resources. The traditional obsession with four-wall profitability or measuring sales per square foot in a vacuum, that is dying, and it really should be.
Yeah.
Because if you evaluate a store solely on the transactions rung up at its specific cash registers, you are going to systematically underinvest in your most powerful asset.
Because you're missing the entire halo effect. Think about it. If a customer discovers a new brand while walking past your storefront, comes inside to talk to a highly trained associate who helps them find their exact size, but then that customer decides to actually make the purchase on their phone 3 days later from their living room, the legacy accounting systems give 100% of the credit to the e-commerce division.
Which is crazy. The physical store looks like an unprofitable showroom that's dragging down margins, even though it did all the heavy lifting to acquire that customer in the first place.
The store generated the demand. The website merely processed the paperwork.
This is why forward-thinking analysts are forcing leadership to focus on omni-channel customer acquisition costs, measured against a unified customer lifetime value.
CLV is everything now.
You have to evaluate the cost of the entire ecosystem, regardless of which specific channel finalizes the transaction. If you aren't integrating your metrics, you are financially penalizing the exact channel driving your growth.
The source material provides a really devastating contrast of what happens when you get this wrong versus when you get it right.
Yes, the tale of two retailers.
Right. On one side, you have legacy department stores like Saks, which stubbornly clung to isolated channel metrics, failed to integrate their physical floor with their digital backend, and ultimately filed for bankruptcy.
It's tragic, but predictable.
And on the other side, you have Bloomingdale's. They looked at the same market conditions and didn't shrink their footprint. They invested heavily into integrating the tech.
They upgraded their physical environments. And crucially, they equipped 90 of their top personal shoppers with a proprietary digital app called Little Brown Books.
And the mechanics of that app are brilliant. It doesn't replace the shopper. It supercharges them with granular data.
Exactly.
Imagine a personal shopper pulling up the app and seeing that a high-value client bought a specific designer winter coat 3 years ago. The app prompts the associate when the matching seasonal scarf arrives in inventory.
That's amazing.
Before the client even walks through the door, the associate has the product pulled, perfectly tailored to a historical preference. It bridges the data processing of e-commerce with the high-touch hospitality of physical retail.
And the financial result? Bloomingdale's just posted 5 consecutive quarters of sales growth in a supposedly dead sector.
Wow.
Yeah. They prove that the future of the physical store isn't smaller, it's smarter.
It really brings us back to the core friction in the market today. Global surveys analyzing 20,000 consumers across 26 countries consistently show that nearly 75% of people still prefer the physical act of shopping in a store over browsing online.
The demand for physical space is overwhelming. But crucially, less than 10% of those same consumers report being actually satisfied with their current in-store experiences.
The failure isn't the format. The failure is on the operators who have refused to modernize their spaces to meet current consumer expectations.
The retail apocalypse was never about the customer abandoning the physical world. It was about the customer abandoning boring, poorly operated, outdated stores.
Perfectly said. So as you review your own omnichannel strategies this week, we'll leave you with this final thought to mull over.
Think about it.
The next time you walk into your own favorite shop, or maybe one of your competitors' locations, look past the end caps and the mannequins. Look at the flow of the inventory moving in the back. Watch how the associates interact with their tech, and pay attention to how the space builds trust.
Are you standing in a static relic of the 1990s, just waiting for the wrecking ball?
Or are you standing inside a highly optimized logistics hub, a localized acquisition billboard, and an AI-powered service clinic? And more importantly, which one is your own company building?